Welcome to the visibility equation. We're back after, I think, just a quick interim break. It's every other Friday, and I only want to do this if I get my most favorite people on to share their knowledge with us today. I've got Joseph Gallo here, Director of Comms at PayPal. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. It's great to be here.
I know you and I have a chance to kind of DM and talk off the cuff regularly, so people are just really getting access to what we're already going to talk about anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's better live than in the comments of a LinkedIn post, though.
I mean, I think so. And I was really excited for this one just based on our pre-call, where we kind of talk through things because you and I deal with a lot of real world issues and opportunities based on what's happening. And I really wanted to dig in on that today.
Yeah, sounds good. I actually just got off a call where people were asking literally like, what course do you take for this? And what course is best for that? And I'm like, the one that was 2 years ago doesn't even matter anymore.
Course of Hard Knocks.
Yeah, right. I didn't want to say it, but it's like, if you're not just using it, you're not really learning it.
Yeah, I also had a call this morning with an agency that I'm going to be doing some AI training for. And that's what we talked about, was really just building comfort and confidence because it can seem really overwhelming. And on our initial call, you told me that most people you talk to really treat AI like an answer engine and how much missed opportunity that is. What is that shift when someone realizes it is so much more than that?
Yeah, and I was thinking about this over the last few days. I really do feel like it's the early reputation that the providers, whether it was ChatGPT or whatever, like it was always like, hey, it'll give you an answer real fast. It'll give you the most up-to-date answer based on the model. I mean, for whatever that's worth. But like search is an answer. It gives you more options. It's not going to give you an answer. It'll give you multiple answers. But really, like if you plug in a prompt that's like, I got caught in this trap. I was looking for a restaurant, and this was maybe a couple months ago. I was looking for a restaurant. My wife is gluten-free. And I was like, what are the gluten-free restaurants in this part of Brooklyn?
Yeah.
And I was using Gemini because I'm like, oh, it's Google. It's probably like got the data that I need, was giving me restaurants that were literally out of business, like as of a year ago. So yeah, exactly. Like I was like, how is Google this bad at it? Now ChatGPT had different answers and whatnot. And I was just like, and that was like the moment for me where I was like, this isn't an answer engine. Like it has moved forward, and it's just not that level of answer. That's what search is for.
Yeah.
And what I was, when you think about some of the acronyms that are thrown around, like GEO, AEO, like why are we optimizing for answer engines when that doesn't exist?
I mean, it's crazy, right? So when someone says this is an answer engine, you gave a great example of that. Mm-hmm. What's behind all those layers that we're missing here? What is this shift of I went here to find an answer, but it actually does 8 million other things?
Yeah, it's so something I'm talking about to my team on Monday. It's like level one, sure, get the research you're asking it for, but like the fact that it's pulling that research and citing a source is a workflow in and of itself without you knowing it. I think about Perplexity, and you don't have to tell it to cite, but it's going to cite. And then it's like, okay, well, I have a colleague who sends a Slack message literally twice a week asking the team for updates on a report. And I was like, yes, I literally asked her, I'm like, tell me that you have something that's automating this. And she's like, no, I have no idea what you're talking about. And she knows like, oh, Claude can do certain things and ChatGPT can, but like she has no concept. And I was just like, I just looked and I was like, okay, this is a simple schedule automation and co-work. Like I'll show her how to do it and it'll be easy. And then all of a sudden she'll take that off of her plate. And who knows, like in my mind, that falls to the bottom of the to-do list. And you're like, okay, well, but that's an unlock in my mind of like, okay, it can do that. What else can it do? And I got to the point where it was like, I started just playing with in Claude chat, like artifacts where I could fill out text boxes. I actually showed my manager this a few months ago. I had it build like a PR plan generator. And it wasn't even like anything special. It was just in the artifacts. It wasn't like, it was on mobile, and just to test it out and see like what it could do. And she was just like, okay. And I'm like, well, if it can do that, what can't it do? Like you get to the point of like, not what can it do, but what can't it do? And you start pushing the boundaries that way.
I mean, Keep going. I'm just so excited. There's so much.
No, but like that's like once you flip the switch from can to can't, like that's when you start breaking down all these barriers that existed, because it's always like, oh well, can we do this? We don't have the budget. Can we do that? The
Yeah.
agency doesn't have this capability.
Yeah.
Oh, we need to worry about onboarding a new vendor. Like those are all the can'ts. Those are all the, well, what the blockers for can we do this? And then all of a sudden this tool comes around where it flips the script and it's like we could just do anything almost. Like now, I will say PayPal's a regulated entity. We have protections, and like we don't like I don't have the ability to use Claude Code at work.
Yeah.
That is restricted to certain groups of employees like engineers and whatnot.
Sure.
But like I can use Cowork to go into my files, do the data analysis for like my executive's LinkedIn profile, and build a LinkedIn strategy. Then I can like review, approve, make sure it works, like navigate for him or her and like go that route, where that would take hours and hours and hours of time.
And you just nailed something really important that I wanted to hit. And I feel like I'm going to be a broken record with this, but you're improving the quality of your output. You're not taking away Joseph Gallo's job where you're creating something that you are no longer needed. You are a human in the loop. You're the essential human layer. But the manual tasks of doing all of these things that would have taken you 3, 4, 5 hours might be done in about 15 minutes. And you can improve on that to make it better than it ever would have been at that first iteration.
Yeah, like that's exactly it. That is exactly it. Like I go back to it was 2023, 22. And we were year one into an executive's LinkedIn program, and we got all the data from him. But I had two team members having to analyze the spreadsheet that LinkedIn sent them to figure out, okay, what was the increase in follower count? What was the average engagement? What are all these metrics that we basically made up? And this morning I just had it look at mine, just said, okay, create a PowerPoint slide that's executive ready, or deck that's executive ready, that's based on this data. And it pulled out and it had some really interesting data. And I was like, okay, it gave me the data I asked for. But then I was like, what are some interesting insights? And they're like, well, a lot of your followers are CEOs, which is weird, which is different for a mid-level communicator. A lot of your engagements come on the weekends, not the Tuesday through Thursday benchmark that LinkedIn gives you. Like things you don't think about that, like I would probably not look at, okay, I'm going to slice the data a certain way. Because I'm not a data scientist, but you can ask it to dive in and just a broad question like, what's unique about this? And then it gives you that. And then all of a sudden you can put the learnings to place. Like maybe I'll do more in-depth posts on the weekends versus on a Wednesday when everyone's flooding the feed. You know, algorithm be damned, because it's 3 weeks old. But
before we get too tactical, I'm asking this on purpose. And I always like to talk to people what they're building right now, because I think that all comms people have to think, and the really good ones already do. You know, we've always been communication architects, right? When we talk about how things were done, even if it took a long time, it was I needed an Excel spreadsheet for this, and from that I needed to get my information from here, and then you already have all of your processes and systems, and now we have to think about that in a different way. So we're inherently also builders. What is something you're building right now, or maybe you just built, that you're super excited about?
All right, this is not communications related at all.
That's why I'm asking.
But one of the things that my wife and I have tried to do over the last couple of years, we have 2 kids, younger kids, is actually like have date nights, like actually like dedicate time and whatnot. But it's always a challenge. Like I live in the New York area. There's a lot to do, but we don't want to do the dinner and a movie type thing. So over the weekend, I actually built an app that I'll walk through the steps in a minute, but like using an app that literally plug in a location, plug in a day, you could set your profile to like, okay, these dietary needs, or I'm looking for a chill night or an active night. And it populates like a list of 10 potential things to do for the week on that day. And it pulls from Google. It'll link back to the actual site or to a Google search, because I didn't want it to hallucinate and pull something from like across the country. You have the share button. You could save all these things. Now, I actually I built it with Claude Code, but I didn't start there. I actually started with chat. I think it was chat or cowork, and I actually like had it build a PRD and ask me questions about what I wanted the app to do. That's the thing that I don't think people actually get is like have it ask you questions, interview you versus just say, okay, go do this and then forget about it. Like I end 90% of my prompts with what more do you need to know? Ask clarifying questions, get all the data you need from me. And so I had it build a PRD. I reviewed it, a product readiness document for those who don't know the acronym. Reviewed it, was like, okay, this looks good. Had it build me a Canva prompt because I've noticed Claude doesn't really notice that Claude design is a thing yet, which is interesting. Yeah, which is just, I don't understand how those two things don't know that the other exists. Put it into Claude design, had it run, build the app screens and the wireframes and everything. And I was just like, okay, wow, I moved this around, changed that color, brought that back into code and had it build me a code prompt and then walk me through the steps. And like, there are times where I was just screenshotting errors and dropping it in without a prompt and it would fix it and tell me how to fix it. And within, I'd say, I mean, I burned through my 5-hour sessions quick. It was probably 5 or 6 hours. I had a working like web app. I put it on Versal and had the Claude API, which was scary before I even like started doing this to think like using an API, and it works. And like, I've had people test it. They're like, this is like, I want to use this. And I'm like, well, you can't, cause it's my personal API. And like, I'm going to get build up the wazoo, but
no, thank you.
Right. But like, it's that kind of like, you can build, I don't want to say private apps, but you can almost solve, if you could solve a problem with an app, you can build it and that you don't have to like scale it. And that's, I think what people don't realize is like, they're always thinking like, let's go for the big win.
Right.
But like, why don't we do something small?
I love that. And speaking of that, I do, this is amazing. You're in the probably 1% of comms people who are able to do this, which is okay. And there is, there's a sense of urgency, but just acknowledge that is where you are. Let's talk about maybe the first skill or early on in your knowledge, whether it was ChatGPT, Claude, GenSpark, you name it. But the first time you did something, you said, oh, this is going to change everything.
Yeah. I don't know if it changes everything. If it changed everything, it definitely made my life easier. So I one of the things that I did was, okay, one of the things we have to do is like write executive content and whatnot. And I wanted to make sure we got a new executive's voice down. So I actually, again, without having the knowledge to say, let me go start writing a markdown file. Let me write the skill out. I actually said like, okay, Claude, I want to build a skill. I want to build, actually, I didn't even say that. I said, I want to build something that allows me to develop executive content in that executive's voice. I was like, okay, this should be a project. Go do this, and this. And I was like, all right, cool. Like, it's a project. And then I was like, okay, let's build out the instructions. And like, again, using it to step by step, because that's like, it goes to the conversation I had earlier today where someone asked me like, oh, what classes are you taking that like, are you learning about? And I'm like, I'm not. Like, by the time the classes come out, it's like the new models are out. I mean, Opus 4.8 just launched yesterday. So like, and that's more honest, I think Anthropic said. So like, it's going to be different. Not that I think anyone or everyone should be using Opus. That's going to burn through your limits pretty quick. But it's more about like trial and error. Talk to it and have it teach you in real time about how to do it. And that's how like you get there. So like, it was like, okay, here's a project. It's like, okay, let's build the instructions. All right, you need to do a voice DNA. Okay, so connect Slack and Outlook and have it review that executive's voice through emails and Slack. Okay, then go get his LinkedIn and like, I copy pasted it. I didn't download it because I don't have access to his accounts. And I put those into a document and put it into the project. And then it was like, okay, we're going to analyze the voice and then we'll build the instructions. And it worked. And then I said, why is this not a skill? And they're like, because a project is fine for what you need. A skill is more horizontal if you need it in other places. It's like, okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Well, lo and behold, another person created a digital twin of that executive where it would actually give feedback about decks and proposals and pull from insights about his history, like, wherever he grew up and what influences him, and the fact that he's built companies and functions. And I said, okay, like, got access to that. And I realized after a couple times, I would be using the voice DNA. Then I would be calling on that skill because it was shared beyond the team, which is why it wasn't a project. I'd be calling on that skill to check the content. And then it would say the first rev was always like, no, it needs work. These are the areas to feed. And then I realized I was just prompting Claude to actually make the fixes. I wasn't actually making the fixes. And I was like, okay. So I just built a skill that like compounded the two, basically an orchestration that just like said, okay, just run these on repeat until it's good to go. And like save me the time to type, okay, go, check, revise, whatever. Now I still revise the final version. Obviously, I review and look at the final version, make sure the assets are there and whatnot, to your point about human in the loop. But that's like been a game saver in terms of time, because we're publishing like 1 to 2 pieces. Well, 1 to what was it? Like we do like 3 or 4 a week. And then with like run up to different events, it gets even more frequent. So, and then he's sending over ad hoc ones beyond what's on the editorial calendar. So,
of course.
Yeah.
As an EPR person knows. And I'll just share this because humans are required to do all of this. The output for things is as great as Claude is, and 4.8 came out today. I still have to, I created something this morning called my prompt vault, because I still need to be a great prompter, and I have to remember, I don't want to have to remember everything. Write this like a senior editorial person, then review it like that person's boss. Like I'll add in different layers to things. And then I create addendums on my desktop that are redundant instructions for things, because it just, a project might not recall the instructions, or a skill might be too complex and it just needs other layers. That's overwhelming for people to hear. They think, well, what time am I actually saving if I'm going through all of this? And you and I talked about this, right? I'm tracking my hours, and I did this early on because I'm a data person. I'm at the point now I'm saving hundreds of hours, and I've created, like, I can do 3 roles on top of what I already do. How does someone get over, though, this initial input stage, all the stuff you just talked about and all the skills and everything people are doing? Because it's, some of it is just hundreds of hours of your own knowledge, thousands of hours, years of knowledge. And then you do have to invest time. But how do you get someone to say, or maybe you don't, maybe good for us and we're going to excel. But how do you tell someone the level set?
Yeah. So, I'll use a different example, but than the one I just used, because like everyone thinks social content, it just comes to them, they just publish. Like there's not like the review process that you and I know that has to go through to get things done. But like think about something like a media briefing document. Like that is something that entry level employees learn how to build and write. Like this is the format. You got to make sure that the link is right, the reporter bio, the outlet about the publication. What's the key messages? Some cases you're learning, you got to put in like reactive messaging in case something was strange about earnings or something. Sometimes you can think through questions that are asked. And I was thinking about this. This is actually a friend of mine who's over at Lemonade. He and I have talked about this, like, must have been 2 years ago, before Claude Code really took off, before co-work was a thing. And I was very much, he raised the idea of like, we should just create a way to do this. And I'm like, yeah, but like the messaging's always different. And like the links are different, the how you're the logistics for the meeting are different. And like, it doesn't feel like it's going to be efficient to do that. And then I was working within, it was Claude, but I can't remember if it was coworker chat. And I had like a template and I was like, it's advanced enough. Let's try this. And I was like, I want something that can scrape my Google Calendar, because I'm doing it off my machine, and that can scrape my Google Calendar for trigger words and build a briefing document off of it and put it in my Google Drive. And I was like, and it took some time, and it had me going to Google Apps Script, which I had never done before. And like,
I'm living the same life.
Yeah. Like I was just like, I don't even know, like I'm signing up for things, getting cloud
Right.
server thing. I'm like, what is this timeline that I'm living right now?
Listen, I can do it. Anyone can do it. I mean, I love technology, but I am not a coder
Right?
developer.
No, I don't understand what it is. So I'm like, you're trusting the LLM to like give you the right things.
Yes.
Um, and I gave it the reference document. I had to create a reference document off of a template, and it used that, and we created the trigger words media interview, and I had it run, and it would pull the right things, but there's like little things like, okay, the font on this box is different than the font in the rest of the document. And I'm like, okay, we got to go fix that. Like, let's go fix that.
Yeah.
And those are the things human, like you and I would see as like more senior people, maybe more junior people would think that's not a big deal. But like it got to the point where it was literally 90% done. Like it's pulling the link from the Google meeting. It's pulling the name of the reporter. Then it's going and searching and getting the bio from the website. It's searching like it's pulling questions based on the topic that you're putting into the media, the description of the calendar invite. And I'm like, this is something that could take a junior person an hour. And then you have to spend 15, 20, 30 minutes reviewing it as a senior person. Like that's already an hour and a half. That's 90% of the way there.
Yeah. I mean, I'm here. In what we're talking about, we're kind of laughing. We've been Sandbox and Google App Script and all this.
Right.
We didn't know that's overwhelming. You also work in a highly regulated industry, so I want to be very real, especially if people are watching
Yep.
this. Like, I only have Copilot. My organization's never going to let me go outside of that because
That's true.
very real. So I want to change for a minute and talk about compliance and regulated industries. From your vantage point, what do you think AI governance could look like day to day? Like, and why?
Yeah. I mean, look, we have a lot of guidelines and guardrails. Like I have the Claude app on my work desktop, my work laptop, and the code button in Claude is actually grayed out. Like I cannot select it. It's just it doesn't work. Cowork is in beta with at times. Like so there are things the company will just say, nope, you can't do this. There's too much that could go wrong, which I get. Like we're in a financial industry. There is personal identifiable information in there. Like they know who I am from my PayPal account. Like that is not something I want out in the world necessarily. And that's not something I'm sure regulators want us to disclose just accidentally because someone on the social media team built an app and all of a sudden it's leaking information. But I think that there is the common sense things when you work in a regulated industry, and most people who are in regulated industries have an understanding of like, okay, we work with bank accounts in a lot of times. We work in other financial data, like different partners. Like maybe stick to the area that you're in, but also like if you want to go build something, like I think we need to have either an engineer chaperone or buddy, if you will, like just to make sure you're not doing something that's going to leak
I
data.
have,
And
I
see,
have one on our team. I call and I'm like, okay, walk me through this, what I could potentially do wrong. What are the pitfalls? What don't I know? Where am I overcomplicating it? I'm sure he hates when I call him, but I mean, it's an one time. I invested, I recorded on Granola, and I can go back and reference it, and I save whatever we talked about.
I wish we could use granola.
I know. Sorry, you can't.
But yeah, like, but I'm sure he's actually like not hating that you call him because if something does go wrong, he's got to fix it.
Yeah, and then I can share with my team. I mean, he does it one time. I'm
Right.
archiving it, and we move. And I always tell him, I'm like, this is going to be a stupid question. Like, this will be common sense to you, but X. And sometimes he's like, oh my God, Sarah. And sometimes he's like, oh, that's great that you're even thinking like that.
Yeah. So like I think it's also so it's a little bit of common sense. Like our social team knows they're not supposed to be creating AI generated images and putting it out there. There was I think P&G had that issue recently where they did it and it had like the hieroglyphics on the text if you zoomed in.
Yeah.
And they just got torn on X. And I was just like, I sent to my team. They're like, nope, we can't do that. We'll make sure that our social agencies understand this too, but we know we can't. And I'm like, great, thank goodness.
I mean, you have to say it. You have to say it out loud.
Yeah.
And it should be in any compliance guide, depending on your
No, you can't just assume that everyone knows the guidelines. Like that's the thing. And
We're
that's
literally writing the guidelines right now.
yes. Like it's true. Like the next thing, like I haven't used some of the tools that are out there, but like the next thing that comes out is going to change the game probably, and we're gonna have to rethink some of these guidelines. And it's just the nature of the beast.
I mean, at some point, maybe these tools will have compliance built in. Like, are you in a highly regulated industry? Check this box, and you get a different, user experience.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Something I know that was really important. We actually spent a lot of time on this next topic on our pre-call was hiring and entrance into the workforce, given everything that's happening.
Yeah.
I know that you ask candidates how they use AI.
Mhm.
I ask every hire, even the most junior, to tell me about a GPT skill or workflow they automated. It has been a lot of times radio silenced. I'm prepared for that awkwardness because they are not a cultural fit if they are awkward
Mhm.
sense. I just pushed through a former journalist candidate for our head of editorial position. I really, really, really liked this person and sent him to my business partner, our CEO. And he was like, Sarah, he could barely explain chat GPT. He's like, how can he come into an integrated workflow where this is, really important that he's going to be leading people on skill development? It immediately was taken out of the role who would have been senior.
Yeah. I feel like so I think about it in two regards. One, depending on the level. So
Mhm.
if it is a senior person, I look for other skills than knowing the machines. Like
Mhm.
I'm actually like, we're both in the deep of technology. So like if we didn't know it, then it's like a problem, I think. Like I've been in tech for 20 years. I helped roll out the first GPS enabled smartphone pre iPhone. Like this is going back to 2006.
At
Uh,
12 years old, Joseph, how did you get into the workforce so young?
yeah, right. So like I've always been like I like that one actually is an AI story from 2013.
Mhm.
Like so like having been in it, we should be in it. But I don't expect all senior people, especially if they're coming from like consumer packaged goods or
Yeah.
something like that, to be like that deep in it. Which is why I asked the broader, like, how do you like, what do you do? How do you use it versus like, what's a workflow that you've built? Now, if you're a more junior person, I expect that kind of answer
Yeah.
because you should be a little more AI native.
Mhm.
Um, but especially like, I mean, I'm just going to use your example. Like a journalist is going to bring completely different skill sets.
Yeah.
And if they can write for generative engine optimization or kind of adapt and tailor the output, the content for that,
Mhm.
like that's what you guys are doing and doing so at such a high volume that like that to me is more important than like, yeah, I built a custom GPT for an executive voice that I'm not going to use in this role, you know? Like that's like how I balance it. Like I look more for specialty than in
Mhm.
some cases.
All right, let's talk about this one. Marketing engineers. So Profound is running a contest for this
Yes.
right now. Do
I just
you
talked to the Profound team this week too.
did I love it. Do you think that's a real title in 6 months?
Oh, you want to use your 6 month
6 months
6 months
out
to go out?
already. Yeah. Let's go 9 months. Go 18 months. Give me a time frame.
I don't know about the words used, but I think that role exists. And here's why. What we're talking about. We're building. Like I have actually started thinking about what would a comms engineer or comms AI ops person and having that conversation with people look like.
Yeah.
I know Yahoo has one. I know I've talked to the Okta team. I don't think it's by that title, but they have that role.
Okay.
Um, and it's more about like, it's not just building, but like you need to have lived the industry to know what's going to solve the problem. Like an engineer is not going to know what's in my head, regardless of how in depth the brief is. Um, I, heck, I don't know what's in my head until Claude asks me sometimes because I'm
Yeah.
not giving as in depth of a brief as it's in my brain from 20 years of experience. Um, and that's why it's going to like that's how it transforms the industry. If we all are just sitting here with chats and custom GBTs and projects, like great, we'll be more efficient, but that's not going to revolutionize the industry. The industry is going to move based on the custom apps built because vendors the database of the world and the PR vendors of the world, they are building for scale, not for customization. And only I know after 9 years at PayPal, I'm not the only person who knows, but like I know more than vendor X what PayPal needs
Yeah.
and how to work within our compliance versus having to take something off the shelf, try to customize it, try to like put the guardrails around it, and then apply it.
I know we're almost out of time, but we have so many things I didn't even get to. I want to talk about measurement because that's another thing we hit.
Yeah.
You
That's a big one.
Okay, let's say you have senior leaders. This is hypothetical, but it exists at every organization right now. Okay, senior leaders measuring in volume, social engagement. While this entire shift is happening, how do we help move people, and our peers in particular, how do we help them move the C-suite without making them feel like, oh no, we're really behind? What should we be looking at in addition to or in place of these things?
Yeah, I think when you think about the pre-AI era of PR, there are a lot of different things. You had, I'm going to age myself here. You had advertising value,
ABE.
AVE. Yep. I was trying to think of exactly what the words were.
Add value equivalency.
That's it. Equivalency. I couldn't think of the E, which was just, I did not understand that when I had to start doing that.
I had to measure with a ruler.
Yeah. Like
a
column is worth this much versus like a quarter page. I'm like, what is this?
I don't know.
Number. And then you went to impressions, and then like there was a conversation around share of voice and sentiment. Mm-hmm. I think using some like a version of share of voice or share of visibility and sentiment when it comes to GEO is how you start moving them along, because they might be used to that nomenclature. And not all prompts are going to result in positive coverage. Like you're sometimes you're gonna be third or fourth on the list, but why? Like, so like, how do you gotta like set the your own framework for what that looks like. But like sometimes fourth is actually better because it's going to be the most recent one above the chat box and it's just going to fly through. So like, is that necessarily a bad thing? Every company has to like make that decision. You may not want to be first on the list because it's earlier in the chat and someone's got to scroll and they might not. It's like being on the first page of Google.
Well, it's different for every person. We have so much deep data on this. I am down the rabbit hole. I was actually just writing a whole report on citations and how they are derived, because how Joseph's chat GPT or Claude is different than mine, because we're in this era now of persona.
Yes.
Me, Sarah, agency owner, mom, wife, blah, blah, blah. Intent. What am I looking for? Information. Am I ready to buy something? Am I comparing something? And then which LLM am I on? Free version, paid version, etc. And that output, those answers are going to be different depending. And until you can actually do that at scale, you have no idea what
you said freed and paid. I'd argue logged in or not logged in.
Logged in or not, incognito. We always run we'll do a Google AI overview search for something to compare something manually. We have to make sure we're incognito. I mean, otherwise you're not getting the real answers.
Exactly. I had this conversation with someone the other day. I was like, I'm gonna run a query on this, and they're like, well, don't do it. Yeah, it's gonna be skewed because you're on your work computer. I'm like, no, I'm doing it on my phone, my personal phone, not logged into ChatGPT, which I don't pay for anyway.
Right.
To try to get it's not unbiased necessarily because there's some history there probably, but it's somewhat unbiased.
We can run that at scale across all of them, so they talk about a cool data set for people. That's what you want to see.
Exactly. That's what you want, because that's how you blind the persona and all the data they have.
All right. Yeah. I know we could talk for hours. I'm so thankful for your time today. We'll have to do this again. If you have any questions watching this on replay, please drop them in the comments. We're pretty darn active on LinkedIn. We'll get back to you.
A little bit.
Well, have a great weekend, everyone. Stay happy, healthy, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks, everybody.